Michael Thompson, please enter your 2008 rebirth wish list. Wish number 1, bankrupt the gorgeous Olivia Sullivan. Wish number 2, upgrade Olivia Sullivan's super flat chest to aircraft carrier size. Wish number 3, make tons of money and buy Olivia Sullivan's freedom from the Sullivan family. Wish number 10, hope I get a system to help me make money effortlessly. I just want to slack off. January 2008, just after the first snow. The weather today was exceptionally cold. The chill of the melting snow seemed to seep right into your bones. Inside a high school in Green Valley, students were in class. There was no heating in the southern classrooms. Students were bundled up like snowmen, pausing frequently as they wrote to breathe warm air onto their hands and rub them together vigorously. I'll explain this problem one last time. When the x-axis coordinate. At the front of the room, the pot-bellied middle-aged math teacher pointed his teaching stick at the blackboard, spitting slightly as he lectured passionately. Below the podium, in the second-to-last row, a clean-cut boy was staring blankly at a point in midair, his jaw dropped in astonishment. System loading, current progress 99%. The text floated in a bordered box in the upper right corner of his vision, just like movie subtitles. The shock of this inexplicable phenomenon, something that defied all belief and understanding, finally coalesced into 2 words. Holy shit! The sudden shocked outburst instantly jolted his classmates awake. Everyone turned towards the source of the sound. The good-looking boy in the second-to-last row. He had abruptly stood up, his shocked expression quite a sight. Of course, the look the math teacher gave him was also quite something. Michael Thompson, do you have an objection to my explanation of this problem? Michael Thompson remained stunned for a good while before snapping back to reality. Seeing the teacher's face flushed dark red with anger, he finally stammered out after a long pause. Holy, it was a great explanation. Thank you. Now, take your paper, get out, and stand in the hall. You got it. Michael swiftly gathered his papers from the desk and, amidst the roaring laughter of the entire class, dashed out of the classroom. But even standing outside in the hallway as punishment, his mind was still reeling. Oakwood High School. This is my old high school, all right. But I'm in my 30s. Haven't I been out of high school for over a decade? Could it be? I've time traveled. Michael looked down at his hands. The previously injured middle finger on his left hand was now perfectly fine and flexible. The calluses were gone too, his hands pale and smooth like a teenager's. And the system loading text in his vision hadn't disappeared. What the hell is going on? Inside the classroom, a short girl sitting right in the front row, center desk, was slumped over, looking a bit pale and gently rubbing her stomach. Could it be I've time traveled? What year is it? Definitely not 2021. And what the heck is this text? Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind, making Olivia Sullivan jump. She snapped her head up, looking around in confusion, trying to find whoever had just spoken and startled her. But the surrounding students seemed not to have heard anything, and the teacher carried on with his lecture. The voice had been so loud. Sitting in the front row, she'd heard it clearly. There was no way the teacher hadn't heard it. How could the notoriously short-tempered math teacher ignore a student disrupting the class? Could it be I misheard? Her deskmate saw Olivia's strange behavior and whispered, Olivia, just hang in there. Class is almost over. No, I don't need to go to the bathroom. Olivia blushed instantly, hastily whispering her explanation. She lowered her head, pretending to be nonchalantly listening and taking notes. Hey, it's healed. It really healed. Holy shit, awesome. The sudden voice startled her again. Just then, her deskmate, Claire Evans, suddenly snickered. She nudged Olivia's elbow and gestured with her chin towards the hallway. Olivia, look. What's Michael Thompson doing? Olivia instinctively glanced towards the classroom door. She saw the clean-cut, handsome boy standing outside, holding up the middle finger of his left hand with a goofy grin on his face. And the direction his finger was pointing was aimed squarely at the math teacher on the podium. His finger was even bending and straightening repeatedly, clearly provocative. Claire and Olivia were in the front row, right below the podium. Their whispering immediately drew the ire of the lecturing math teacher. Just as he was about to reprimand them, he noticed they were both looking outside. He instinctively followed their gaze and saw Michael Thompson giving him the middle finger from the classroom doorway. Math teacher. He tossed his notes onto the desk. Class, review the next problems yourselves. Michael Thompson, get over here. Tell me what your problem is. What the F? Teacher, that's not what I meant. Let me explain. The classroom erupted in laughter, and Olivia's deskmate Claire Evans was laughing so hard she clutched her stomach, honking like a goose. But Olivia couldn't laugh. She looked at Michael Thompson, who was now getting chewed out with his head down, with absolute astonishment. That voice, just now, came from Michael Thompson. Claire, did you hear what Michael Thompson said just now? Yeah, he said, "Teacher, let me explain." Claire guffawed, sounding like a goose again. Clearly, she hadn't heard what Olivia had heard. Since class was still in session, the math teacher just gave Michael a stern lecture, told him to come to his office after class, and went back to teaching. But Olivia couldn't focus on the lecture anymore. Her eyes kept darting towards Michael Thompson standing by the door. Inadvertently, their eyes met. Why does Gorgeous keep looking at me? Did she already recognize the charm of her future husband? No, wait, didn't we only start dating in college? I knew it. I always said she had a secret crush on me in high school, but she'd never admit it. Future husband. Olivia's eyes widened, and her face flushed crimson. This guy, what on earth? What nonsense is he spouting? But this time, she noticed Michael definitely hadn't opened his mouth, which meant she was hearing Michael Thompson's thoughts. She's still looking? This damn irresistible charm of mine. That shameless guy. Olivia snapped her head back, annoyed, and started scribbling furiously in her notebook. But Michael's thoughts continued to echo in her mind. Since I've been reborn, should I get together with Gorgeous now? Or stick to the original timeline and wait until college? His thoughts sounded hesitant. The question made Olivia instinctively prick up her ears. But ultimately, she heard Michael's resigned thoughts. Forget it. Better not change the original timeline. Besides, Gorgeous is so strict with me after we get married. I can't even visit the massage parlors. I should enjoy my freedom for a while first. Get back to being the bathhouse king. I wonder if girl number 13 at that house of pleasure near the university town is working yet. Snap. From gripping it too hard, the tip of the ballpoint pen Olivia was holding snapped, and ink leaked out, staining the notebook page black. For some reason, she was starting to feel really angry. Claire Evans heard the commotion and glanced curiously at her deskmate. That's when she saw the usually quiet and gentle Olivia Sullivan gritting her teeth, her face contorted with fury. The small hand gripping her pen trembled slightly, the nib snapping under the pressure. Ink bled onto her notes, staining a dark patch. Who managed to get our resident angel this worked up? Claire wondered. Olivia Sullivan sensed her deskmate's strange gaze and immediately smoothed her expression, pretending nonchalantly to take out a new pen cartridge from her pencil case. Inside, however, she couldn't stop fuming. What kind of nonsense is this guy spouting? How could I possibly marry him in the future? Olivia was furious. She'd had a strict upbringing. Although she was beautiful and even the campus belle of Oakwood High School, her dating experience was zero. Now, out of the blue, someone pops up claiming to be her future husband. Who time traveled back? How could something so ridiculous happen in this world? This was the 21st century. One had to believe in science. Although the fact that she could eavesdrop on Michael Thompson's thoughts wasn't exactly scientific itself. Getting angry made the cramps in her lower abdomen worse. It was that time of the month, and perhaps due to her constitution, it was always excruciatingly painful. Olivia's brows furrowed tightly as she clutched her stomach and laid her head down on the desk. This scene didn't escape Michael Thompson, who was standing outside the classroom as punishment. Gorgeous has that look on her face. Is it that time of the month? So, it hurt this badly even back in high school, huh? It didn't get better until after we were married and had Lucas. Back when we were dating, she always needed me to rub her stomach around this time, or she couldn't sleep. Hearing the buzzing voice in her head, Olivia's eyebrows twitched uncontrollably. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, she slammed her hand on the desk, jumped up, and shouted towards the classroom door, flushing with anger and embarrassment. Can you please stop saying such embarrassing things? Even a girl usually as meek as a bunny rabbit has a few days each month when she can become terrifying. Her outburst silenced the classroom instantly. All the students stared in astonishment at Olivia Sullivan, who had suddenly shot to her feet. The math teacher, grabbing his pointer stick, headed for the door. Michael Thompson, standing out here as punishment and still harassing female classmates. Are you? Michael Thompson, standing outside, was completely dumbfounded. How did this involve him? No, teacher, I didn't say anything. I really didn't say anything just now. What rotten luck. During the lunch break, Michael Thompson returned to the classroom mentally and physically exhausted after a visit to the homeroom teacher's office. He slumped onto his desk, cursing his misfortune under his breath. For disrupting class order and harassing a female student, he'd been warned by the homeroom teacher to have his parents come in tomorrow. The thought of going home and explaining this a man almost 30 in reality, and then having to endure a beatdown for both his mom and dad? How humiliating could that be? So lame. Michael rested his head on the desk. The words system loading were still visible in his field of vision, but after pondering for a while, he couldn't make heads or tails of it, so he decided to ignore it. Since something as outrageous as rebirth had already happened, what else couldn't he accept? However, the thought of seeing his mom and dad again stirred a strange feeling inside him. His nose tingled slightly. Michael Thompson's family wasn't fabulously wealthy, but they weren't poor either. His father was a craftsman, a carver, and his mother was a typical housewife. Unfortunately, because his father never wore a mask while working, constantly inhaling dust, he developed lung disease and passed away while Michael was in college. His mother, who had always been very close to his father, lost her pillar of strength, and her health declined steadily in the following years. Now that he was reborn, even if he couldn't convince his dad to change jobs, he had to at least make him take precautions, wear a mask while working, and definitely make him quit smoking. Since I've been reborn, I have to make sure my family lives a good life. Before his rebirth, Michael Thompson had been incredibly successful in his career, earning more money than most people could in several lifetimes. But while he had earned enough money, in the end, he didn't know who he was earning it for. For himself, he already had enough to retire at 30. For his family, after his father died, his mother stayed in their old house back home. Even when Michael wanted to bring her to live in comfort, she refused time and again. Yet he felt like he couldn't stop. Countless eyes were watching him, countless voices urging him forward. How many people were depending on him for money, like baby birds waiting to be fed? That life was exhausting. So exhausting that when he came home at night, he didn't even have the energy to look at the woman he loved most, just collapsed into bed. The next morning, he would invariably be woken by calls from the company, hastily changing clothes for another frantic day. So this time, reborn, Michael Thompson didn't want to be so tired anymore. He just wanted to relax comfortably, do things he enjoyed, and spend more time with the girl he loved and his family. Easier said than done, though. Getting gorgeous ransom from the Sullivan family and marrying her is going to be pretty damn difficult. Michael felt a headache coming on just thinking about it. In his past life, he was a poor kid who started from scratch, and Olivia had suffered a lot because of it. Now that he had a second chance, knowing what hardship his future wife would face, he couldn't just stand by and watch, could he? It pained him to think about it. So, this life, even if he didn't want to make big money, he had to get his hands on a sum, a quite substantial sum, before graduating college. It was the necessary ransom to whisk Olivia Sullivan away from the Sullivan family. Calling it a bride price wouldn't be wrong either. It's 2008 now. Delivery platforms have just been established. E-commerce is budding. Smartphones are just starting to become popular. The 4G era won't start until 2013, and the concept of Bitcoin won't even be introduced until the end of this year. There are plenty of opportunities, but for someone in the arts like me, venturing into these fields is a bit of a leap. Maybe I should stick to my old line of work. But where will the capital come from? Ultimately, he was still a high school student. No bank would lend him money. Ask his family? He'd get his legs broken for sure. But he couldn't possibly wait until after college graduation, accumulate some assets, and then start a business, right? Michael's gaze suddenly fell on Olivia Sullivan, sitting at the front of his row. A thought struck him. Speaking of which, gorgeous is loaded. I remember her mom bought her a school district apartment back in high school. She probably had at least 7 figures in her own bank account back then. She'd brag about it to me after we got married. Maybe I can get some startup fund from her first. It's technically earning her bride price money, right? While Michael Thompson was lost in these thoughts, Olivia Sullivan, sitting at the front of his row and pretending to be asleep on her desk, was secretly listening to his inner monologue. Olivia's eyes gradually widened. This guy is actually scheming to get his hands on her secret stash. Olivia Sullivan pretended to be napping at her desk, but she was secretly listening in on Michael Thompson's thoughts. They sat in the same column of desks, but she was in the front row, and he was in the second to last. The distance, combined with the chatter during the lunch break, made it hard for her to hear everything clearly. Still, Olivia Sullivan caught phrases like 4G era, internet economy, and Bitcoin. She was completely baffled. What on earth were those things? She never heard of them. She had heard of smartphones, though, and even owned one her dad bought her last Christmas. It was huge, like a brick, and inconvenient to carry, so she never brought it to school, sticking with her small flip phone instead. Besides, most students at school didn't have cell phones at all. Owning a flip phone already made her the envy of many. Claire Evans was always borrowing it to level up on Messenger. When she heard Michael Thompson thinking about hitting her up for startup capital, the look on her face was priceless. That shameless jerk, thinking he can use my Christmas savings? Tooey. But how does he know I have 7 figures in my account? She hadn't even told her best friend, Claire Evans. Could he really be? No, impossible. There's no way I'd ever marry someone like him. Speaking of which, they're going to redevelop the old district in Green Valley in 3 years. Buying land there now? Nah, it's too early. I'll think about it when I have more cash. Right now, the main thing is figuring out how to convince Miss Pretty here to make a necessary investment in her future husband. Michael Thompson, sitting near the back, seemed to hit on an idea. He stood up excitedly and headed towards Olivia Sullivan. Hey, Olivia Sullivan. Olivia Sullivan replied stonily, get lost. Right then. Guess that was too blunt, Michael thought. Were Miss Pretty and I on bad terms back in high school? I don't really remember interacting with her much. After school, Olivia Sullivan was quietly packing her bag at her desk. Michael Thompson hadn't left the classroom either. He sat at his desk, looking troubled. That guy, still after her savings. Olivia Sullivan fumed silently. She finished packing and got ready to leave. Just as she reached the classroom door, Michael Thompson's thoughts echoed in her mind again. Oh, right, today's January 4th. Doesn't that mean Miss Pretty's grandpa has a sudden heart attack and dies tomorrow? I think it happened while he was out for a walk. If someone had found him right away, maybe he wouldn't have died. I never really knew the old guy. But after her grandfather died, things seemed rough for Miss Pretty with the Sullivan family. Should I warn her? What excuse could I use? Olivia Sullivan's eyes widened, her pupils contracting sharply. Grandpa is going to die tomorrow? Yeah, I should give Miss Pretty a heads up, Michael decided. He stood up, planning to find a subtle way to warn Olivia Sullivan. But when he turned to look for her, her seat was empty. She'd already left. Michael Thompson scratched his head, frustrated. When did she leave? Oh well, I'll just message her on Messenger when I get home. He didn't have a cell phone back in high school, but his uncle next door had a computer he could easily borrow. Michael Thompson gathered his things and left the school, heading home. Oakwood High School was located in Pine Ridge County, part of the Green Valley area. Michael Thompson didn't live in the main county seat, but in a smaller town under its jurisdiction, the curiously named Pine Creek Town. Pine Creek Town wasn't far from the county center. The bus from a school plaza got him home in about 15 minutes. The Green Valley area was known for its rolling hills, with low mountains and terraced fields being common sights. Michael Thompson's family lived halfway up a hillside, accessible via a hiking trail. Behind their house was a bamboo grove, and next door stood a church. His family lived in 2 connected houses they'd built themselves, sharing a large yard. It wasn't just his immediate family. His grandparents and 4 uncles lived there too. They were all so close. As a child, Michael felt like he had several dads and moms. But after his father passed away, Michael went off to college and rarely came back except for Christmas. Eventually, his aunts and uncles bought their own places in the city and moved out too. He no longer woke up on weekend mornings to the sound of hymns from the church next door, grumbling as he got out of bed. Lost in these bittersweet memories, Michael Thompson slid open the iron gate and stepped into the yard. Just inside, he saw his uncle Ben Thompson squatting on the steps eating from a bowl. Seeing Michael, Benjamin grinned. Mikey, heard her teacher called the house. Come to hide out at your uncle's. Uncle Ben, are you just squatting out here with your dinner, waiting to watch the show? Your aunt's just dishing up mine. She'll be out in a sec, Uncle Ben replied. Michael, half annoyed and half amused, unlocked his front door and went inside, muttering, Mom only has one son. She dotes on me, right? No way she'd actually hit me, seriously. Benjamin Thompson just grinned without saying anything, watching his nephew disappear inside. A moment later, Michael's voice, trying to sound tough but clearly fearful, drifted from the house. Margaret Thompson, what is this behavior? Is this how you treat a flower of our nation, the future of our country? Put the stick down and let's talk properly. You brat, gotten bold, have you? Flirting with girls at school now. Oh, you're something else. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'll be letting everyone down. What followed was a commotion, the sound of chase and things getting knocked over. Outside, several aunts and uncles had gathered, bowls in hand, craning their necks to watch the drama unfold. Later, at dinner time, Robert Thompson returned home from his workshop. Before he could even change his slippers, Michael stomped over, looking furious. Dad, someone hit your son. Aren't you going to do something about it? Robert Thompson's eyes widened. Who hit you? I'll go beat up their kid. Never mind. Forget I said anything. Michael retreated quickly. Robert Thompson changed his slippers and went inside, chuckling. So, what trouble did you get into this time to make your mom mad? Michael avoided his father's gaze, tried to look nonchalant. What trouble? Nothing. Before he could finish, Margaret Thompson emerged from the kitchen, apron on and spatula still in hand. Your son, she said irritably, has really gotten bold. He's flirting with girls at school now. Margaret Thompson said this, hoping her husband would back her up and lecture their hopeless son. But Robert Thompson, instead of getting angry, just teased him. Fallen in love? Need some cash from Dad. Thanks for the financial support, Dad. Michael Thompson immediately grinned cheekily. How much can you give me? Margaret Thompson's face immediately darkened. She unleashed a tirade. Give you jack squat. Get lost. And you, Uncle Ben Thompson, hiding a secret stash of cash, are you? Come here, you've got some explaining to do. Seeing his dad had drawn her fire, Michael Thompson wisely retreated from the battlefield. Mom, I'm going back to my room to study. Call me when dinner's ready. Get lost. I'm sick of looking at the both of you. You got it. Michael Thompson's room was on the second floor. His parents' bedroom was the sunny one at the front, while his room was at the back. His room wasn't exactly small, but for some reason his parents had gotten him a massive double bed. As a result, once the bed was crammed in, there wasn't even room for a desk. He had to get a small, low table to put on the bed, folding it up and stashing it underneath when it was time to sleep. He lay on his bed for a bit, glancing at the black frame in his field of vision. It still read system initializing, stuck at 99%. No change at all. Had crashed. There wasn't exactly any customer support. Michael Thompson felt like leaving a one-star review and demanding a refund. But unfortunately, he couldn't find a complaint hotline. He just closed his eyes and decided to ignore it. He closed his eyes, listening to the rustling sound of the bamboo grove outside. A sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time washed over him. What a mess today has been. I was actually pretty emotional seeing Mom and Dad earlier. When Michael Thompson had first seen Margaret Thompson, his eyes had welled up. His mom back then was still so substantial. Margaret Thompson was quite plump back then. She probably would have broken the bathroom scale. When she laughed hard, her eyes would disappear into the folds of her cheeks. It was only after his father passed away that she gradually withered, her once passionate, fiery personality becoming withdrawn and quiet. Whenever she called him, she'd be so careful, terrified of bothering him, which had always left the Michael Thompson of his past life feeling awful. But the mom standing before him now was the one he remembered so vividly. Michael Thompson had wanted to rush over and give her a huge bear hug, but Margaret Thompson's feather duster had sent him retreating. Any urge he'd felt to cry vanished instantly. A guy who was technically almost 30 getting chewed out by his mom. It was downright humiliating, especially with all the gossiping aunts and uncles watching from the doorway. It's all that pretty girl's fault. She was the one sneaking glances at me in class, and then she turned it all around. Michael Thompson muttered under his breath. But thinking of Olivia Sullivan reminded him he'd planned to warn her about what would happen with her grandfather tomorrow. He sighed and dragged himself out of bed, muttering, well, she is my future wife, after all. Michael Thompson's family didn't own a computer, but his uncle's family did. There was a balcony outside his parents' room, and it connected directly to his uncle's house next door, with no dividing wall. He walked across the balcony to his uncle's door and knocked. Knock, knock, knock. A moment later, the door opened, and a girl around Michael Thompson's age stepped out. Her name was Emily Thompson, his uncle's oldest daughter, about 6 months older than Michael. They were the closest among all the cousins in the extended family. After all, they'd been in the same class since kindergarten, and even though they weren't later on, they still went to the same school. The moment Emily Thompson saw Michael Thompson, she grinned. Mikey, heard Aunt Maggie gave you a beating? Michael Thompson's face instantly darkened. Don't bring that up. Move. I need to use the computer. Demanding to use my computer and acting all tough? Believe it or not, I ought to give you a... Emily Thompson abruptly stopped talking when she spotted the 10-yuan bill pinched between Michael Thompson's fingers. Her attitude did a complete 180. Snatching the bill, she beamed, her eyes crinkling into crescents. One VIP coming through. Right this way, sir. Please watch your step. Figures. She'd always been money-grubbing, even as a kid. That hadn't changed a bit. Michael Thompson went inside, and Emily Thompson even graciously poured him a glass of water. Back in '08, most computers were still desktops. Even though slimmer flat-screen monitors were starting to come out, Emily Thompson's wasn't one of them. It was a couple of years old, after all. As Michael Thompson was booting up the computer, his little cousin, still in kindergarten, toddled over dragging a teddy bear and tapped him on the arm. Michael Thompson looked down at her. His little cousin tilted her head back, looking up at him, and said in a soft little voice, Mikey, Mommy and Daddy said Aunt Maggie hit you cause you were acting like a hooligan. Where did she hit you? Michael Thompson was speechless. Great. So the whole extended family knew his mom had laid into him today, huh? He shot a look at Emily Thompson, who quickly turned her head away, obviously trying hard not to laugh. His little cousin tugged his sleeve again. Mikey, what's acting like a hooligan? Michael Thompson scooped her up, planted a loud mwah on her cheek, and pinched her little nose. That's acting like a hooligan, you little goofball. The little girl giggled, hopped down, and scampered happily out of the room, shouting, I'm going to tell Mommy and Daddy that Mikey acted like a hooligan to me, too. Wait, get back here. After finally bribing his little cousin with the promise of a lollipop tomorrow, Michael Thompson sat back down in front of the computer. The ancient machine had only just finished booting up. Michael Thompson looked at the default Windows interface and the dated icons for the installed software, feeling a bit disoriented. He opened Messenger, but when he tried to log in, he got a password error. That can't be right. I definitely kept using my high school Messenger account. What was my password back then? He hesitated for a while and tried a few more times, but kept saying the password was wrong. Emily Thompson, standing nearby, couldn't watch anymore. What are you doing? Can't you even remember your own password? Scoot over, let me do it. She expertly tapped a few keys and Messenger logged right in. Michael Thompson stared at her, astonished. How did you know my password? Are you dense? Weren't you constantly asking me to keep your Messenger logged in for you? Come to think of it, back then people really did care about their Messenger level. Kids in class used to compete over who had the highest rank. If anyone went to an internet cafe, they were guaranteed to be begged by a crowd to keep their accounts logged in. That was probably the reason Emily Thompson had pestered her dad relentlessly until he bought her computer. She'd even spent a fair bit of money on those customizable avatars, too. It seemed pretty ridiculous to Michael Thompson now, but it had been completely normal back then. Michael Thompson got on a Messenger